Thanks, Bill, for the introduction.
Uh,
Um, no, I'm listening to you, and I was trying to figure out, what's the best way to talk about what is ARNA, what is the elephant in the room, that seems to be, and you're basically talking about your own personal stories with why it's dear to your heart. I was thinking about, it made me think about why I became a member of ARNA, why I aligned myself with a region that has, taken a stance on principle. You know, I mean, I tell you, I was thinking about, there's a couple of guys that were sharing, the guys from Oman, and I got an opportunity to live there for almost a year and experience the fellowship there. And that's going to be part of what I'm going to share about here too, because it played a part in why I became a part of ARNA. Um, so, I'm just talking about, like, for me, as I probably say, we all know when the petition was served, it put ARNA on the front of everybody. Right? It was like, who the heck is ARNA? That they really, does somebody really just, file a lawsuit against NAS? And I heard about it, and I dug it out, and I started reading it. And I tell you, it was like, it made me want to cry, because I felt for the first time that a lot of the things that I had been feeling about were wrong, or the stuff I was seeing in our existing service structure, somebody was actually going to do something about it, or trying to do something about it, trying to right the ship. We basically have a bureaucratic, service structure that was absolutely not is become what it was not originally intended. And I say that because I've read the NA tree. I've read through the stuff. I spent a really good bit of journey and researching a lot of things before I even found out about it. And then when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, somebody's doing it. So I remember, there's a hand wave. I'll answer some questions here in a little bit. I remember, passing it around to everybody I knew in my local area. I was like, hey guys, look at this, because we were talking about the car. We were all about to start voting on the car, and I'm the chair of my local area, and then I'll explain that here in a minute too. I have a home group. I also have I'm a member of a group that's a member of ARNA. But I remember sharing that with people, and it was just like, I immediately became, let's put it this way, I was cussed out on the floor of my area. And basically I was told that I was trying to break up the fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous. There was a lot of things that were negative, a lot of fear, and I'm like, I mean, it's like, I'm trying to stand up for principles, the traditions that we all know, that the tie, it's like, we read it every day, and if you really get in there and study them, you can see the hypocrisy that is our service structure. And a lot of us felt powerless to do anything about it. So anyway, so I found out about this, so I'm like, I want to get involved. I really, I wanted to get involved with the whole, any way I could do to help. Because I knew I had a feeling, I knew what the undertaking was going to happen. When that happened, it just, and so I started, doing trolling the Facebook things. I had been members of lots of different groups. I had done a lot of different things. And what I found was, that there was a lot of people who really cared very deeply, and that were actively involved. And the more I began to find out who actually were members of ARNA, I'm like, these people are actually doing shit in Narcotics Anonymous. They're actually out there. Their groups are out there actively doing things. I'm like, that resonated in my spirit. I remember, anyway, so I say all that to say, because then I asked the question a lot of people do. Okay, who is ARNA and what is ARNA? And I started trying to do my own research. And, when I started finding out, it was groups that are all over the U.S., and and they're like people who care about, there's a lot of things, we all have the website, and we all know it. I'm being very honest with you guys, because I think that for me to do anything else would be insult you. I went to the website, I looked at all the Take Back Your Fellowship memes, were all had, was beautiful done, because all of them had all the reasons why a lot of people have their feelings that they do. But it was hard to articulate what is the Autonomous Region Narcotics Anonymous, and because there's a lot of, because you've got autonomous groups. And so, we started talking about, trying to articulate that, and I started finding there was common themes within that we all agreed on. We don't like the concepts. We think the concepts were never meant to be a part for a fellowship service structure. We think that it was meant to deal. So there's that similarity. We all believe in the traditions. We all believe in this fellowship that saved our lives, and we believe that the groups are the most powerful message of the vehicle to be able to carry this message. And that is our primary purpose. We start talking about the fourth tradition. There are people that are a lot more, that are my predecessors that that really understand autonomy, how it plays into the atmosphere of recovery, the spirit that we have that that attracts me to want to be a member of NA. What gives me my strength and my spirit to help other addicts get clean. There's no other that's better than any dope there is. And I think, I believe, we start talking about, how do you have, because ARNA is, for the lack of a better term, is a non-administrative service structure. We are a group of members who care enough to want to do services on behalf of the groups for which they are serving. We're not trying to run anything. We're not trying to do anything, we're trying to, and so that's what I think, and there's a lot of us, that's what I quickly found out, and there are a lot of people who believe like this, that believe, really truly hold to the fundamental principles of Narcotics Anonymous, our traditions, and our steps, and do not like the way our current situation is within our fellowship. But we're more than just that, and so anyway, so I said that, because we started trying to articulate, and here's the thing, what happens, this is what's been happening a lot for me here lately, is that, because I asked, what can I do, and part of my background is, I've had a lot of experience with working with other countries. I've had a lot of experiences working, I've done a PI chair. I've been a member of Narcotics Anonymous for over 25 years. I've been involved in a lot of multiple service positions, never above the area level because of my profession. I was not able, at the time, and I grew up, I remember my sponsor telling me the first time was when I asked about the concepts, he says, don't worry, those things will never take hold. This is back in the 90s. Little did I know. But anyways, so what my experience is, I tell you, this is kind of I lived in the country of Oman for about 10, 11 months. And I was trying to find NA meetings there. And I remember there not being anything on web present, nothing really, a lot of things going on with it. And so I contacted Egypt, which I think I was heard share before. Egypt has a very good public information platform where they do a lot of the websites great. They have a lot. So I emailed them and said, hey, is there anybody who speaks English in Oman? Because I don't speak Arabic a little bit, but anyways, so they put me in contact with somebody, and it started my relationship with a lot of the members and the groups that were there, that up until that moment that didn't even know was there. And I found out that they had actually had a zonal thing in the city of Muscat. World had a zonal thing for the Middle East zonal thing. And I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna try to wrap this up real quick, because I know it's probably been some questions and answers. So I literally found out that there was a fellowship thriving down there. And so by the end of the time I was there, I got really involved. I helped out a lot. I actually went to a Middle Eastern zonal thing in Dubai, and I tried to meet some of the World Service people, and they wouldn't talk to me at all. I was like, wow. Because I wanted to tell them what the work I was doing there and how it was helping it. I mean, literally, I had friends that came to visit. We were carrying messages all over this country. And I'm like, hey, look, there's this thriving fellowship here that you guys nobody's aware of, because I had heard there was no fellowship there. So anyway, so at the end of it, they asked me to speak on service before I left. And I go into this function they had, and there was this kind of a building, and it's fairly large. And I walk in there, and there's like 14 home groups. I don't know, maybe 50 people or so in the meeting. And I remember praying, and I remember saying, okay, God, how am I supposed to do this? What do I need to talk to these guys? And I got a guy to local service because that's what I got clean with. And I remember praying, and I remember, getting this little quiet voice in me telling me, talk about group conscience. And so I asked them, I was like, hey, how many in here have ever heard of group conscience? And nobody, it was a concept that was completely foreign to them. At least, not in any of the literature, not anything they had experienced. And so I began talking about group conscience and about how a loving, caring God can express himself in a group. And, and how that force can help us stay clean and change. And then I started talking to them about they were NA. And they had this mindset that they had to go to Narcotics Anonymous World Services to get permission to do anything. They didn't know that. And I was like, hey, look, how many people in here can speak English and speak Arabic? And about half the room raised their hand because I had a translator going on. And then I asked them how many of them can write English and can write Arabic. And then about half of that raised their hand. And I looked at them and says, what's stopping you guys from translating your own literature? And they're like, don't we have to get permission? And I looked at them and I said, not according to our traditions, because you guys are Narcotics Anonymous. So, I had that experience, and it was very powerful. I got really involved in, there was only one English speaking meeting. I showed up there. There was like 2 newcomers, I became very involved. That group is now meeting a couple times there. They've got lots of members, and I don't credit it for me, but I know that I was a vehicle for helping teach people about the traditions, because I was constantly telling them about how when a loving, caring God expresses himself in our group's consciences, how powerful that is, and how no, it's like you can't delegate God. You can't. You can delegate all other kinds of stuff, but anyways, the power of the group. So I went to the World Convention, and I went to they had the Meet Your World Board, Pet Your World Board, as I call it. And I wanted to kind of talk about these guys. And I was like, hey, look, I want to talk about my experience. And my experience was because part of my profession was I worked with other countries. And I knew how language barriers, I knew a lot of things. I knew how so sponsorship is real. I had this idea about what if other regions or other areas were sponsor other regions and other areas around the world. So you can make those relationships, build those relationships. And because that's how NA gets spread. I spoke in a meeting in Seoul, Korea one time, and I was going there and I went back to the back and said, hey, there was a box here from a parent. I looked at a bunch of NA paraphernalia, and they actually had a gray book. There had been a meeting in Seoul, Korea, in that particular chapel for years. And it was like anyway, so I said that because there's a whole lot that goes on in Narcotics Anonymous that's absolutely nothing to do with NOS. That's where the message is carried and how powerful it is. We see it here within what we're doing here right now. We see it with Zoom, and I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but I want to share something else real quick, because a couple years ago, my home group and a couple members of us had an idea to do an event where we had this idea where, hey, all these people with over 30 years clean, they have a great message to carry. And I was having this experience of people who I knew who were dying, and we were losing their voice. We were losing their message. And we had this idea where we had an event where we had all these people come from all over the world, and they share their story, and we capture it, and we give an environment to where they can be, part of this stuff. So anyway, so I brought this idea up to my local area and talking about it. Everyone. I was like, you can't do that. How can a group tell us, you got to get your permission? And I'm like, no, I don't. No, we don't. And we did this idea, we had it, and it really it came into this really great, awesome thing. But at that moment, this was a couple years ago. So I started but what happened was these opposing forces started coming in and said, you cannot do something different than the way our service is. A home group, it was crazy thought. I had people calling me up. I started experiencing all this animosity. So what I'm saying on that is that I found that there are a lot of people around the world who have had similar experiences with me when they're trying to carry the message in a variety of different forms, that they feel motivated by their conscious, their experience, their relationship with a God of understanding, that their spirit is trying to express itself in a way to where it can profoundly help other people live. And we're being stifled because of other people who don't think we should do it the way they think we should do it. And we're within our traditions, you know. And I've seen it time and time again. Other groups getting taken off their meeting schedules, afraid to speak up because they're afraid of have a target put on their back. Just me speaking right now in front of you guys about it, there's a part of me that, you know, knows that there are going to people that are going to talk shit about me and they're going to say negative things about me just because I care about our traditions. I care about what's going on, you know, and so be it. So anyway, so I said, that's per my own personal experience. I know that there's a lot of things. ARNA is changing a lot rapidly because we're now getting groups that are coming from around the world that are being a part of it now. They're trying to, you know, we're trying to, like, when we don't want to reinvent a broken wheel. We're looking back at, there's a lot of things that are happening right now. We're looking at a lot of existing pre-concepts literature for service structure and how we can help our groups. We're trying to come up, I mean, you know, how do we remove our own egos and our own personalities out of to where we start controlling shit and doing the same problems they had before? You know, there's a lot of things. And I want to say this too real quick. Is there are a lot of people who are involved with ARNA right now that give a crap, that have a lot of recovery. And we're not just making shit up and trying to do something, you know, like, and there's a lot, I've heard all kinds of things. I've heard, you know, if I showed you some of the things, you would be like, it probably maybe wouldn't shock you because I'm talking to the crowd I am here. But, you know, so I guess that's about it from the personal thing. I know there's probably some questions about what, you know, about ARNA and about the way forward and a lot of things. And we just, you know, the fourth tradition is alive and well. Each group is autonomous within ARNA. And they are free to choose and do or not to do what they want to do, as long as they follow within the traditions, as long as they're you know, our Narcotics Anonymous meeting, you know, and they want to be a member of ARNA, they're welcome. You know, regardless of which edition of the basic text you read. Most of us prefer second edition, gray book. Most of us, some baby blue. Some groups are like, hey, what if we really like the fifth edition? What if we like the sixth edition? Guess what? If your group, that's what you want to do, you're fully right. It's your autonomous. You're reading. And I know there's differences of opinion about our literature, and you know, the influences, and there's a lot of different things. But reality is, if we either uphold these traditions or we don't, we either believe them or we don't. Anyways, that's all about I got to share on myself. A question and answer part. I think you guys, if you guys want to go ahead and start talking.